Hello, everybody, and welcome to another podcast by NikoTheLegend, also known as, Nicholas Sorokin. And the time is 11:43 p.m. 9/22/2016 is the date. And you know what? We're just going to cut right to it. Let's just get right to the nitty gritty. We're talking about why Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite games of all time, and why it's just the best of the best. So, yep, I decided to do a podcast like this because it's always good to share my opinion. Wait, I've been doing that for the past 50 podcasts I've done, and all the other things, magical and magical. So, let's get right to it. Chrono Trigger. I mean, just by that name alone, it kind of just draws you into it. It's like Chrono Trigger. Say it with me, folks. Chrono Trigger. Trigger Chrono. This doesn't work when it's Trigger Chrono. No, it's Chrono Trigger. Time Trigger. Ah, yes, we love that fourth dimension of time, right? Time and space. So great. And I feel that Chrono Trigger just did that so well. Well, before we talk about why it's my favorite role-playing game, I know I said I'd get right to it, but we got to have an origin story, right? Of how it all became just went right into my little hands when I was a wee lad. So, let's see. In the beginning, I had no idea what Chrono Trigger was. Yep, I was living in California. I was like 11 years old, or 12, 10. I can't remember. It was like the early or late 90s or early 2000s. I had my friends that, we all had that good friend that we, or maybe more that were just your best friends when you were a kid growing up and everything. You could play games with them anytime or explore the world with or venture out building fucking box forts for all we know. But you can do anything with those people. And you know what? There was just something that I'll never forget. And that was Chrono Trigger. And let's get to the numbers game. There was 4 of them. They were all brothers. Let's see. I mainly hung out with the 3 younger brothers. There was one older one that was kind of like a half brother, and yep, he was the one that had the golden apple. Now, it wasn't the forbidden fruit. No, 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 no. Well, at the time it was, I guess, but eventually it became mine. Well, almost mine. So how did it happen? Well, hanging out with your best friends at their house and playing video games. It's something we would do all the time, is play video games, even like all day, all night, and just not give a fuck. This is something you did, And of course we would always be outside too, but best of both worlds. And we would play Super Nintendo like all the time, and the first Nintendo, and we would play the oldest brother, the half brother's games all the time, and he would allow that. Besides one game that he would never, especially never allow me to play, was, you guessed it, Chrono Trigger. And as soon as I saw that game, just the cartridge and the picture on it, I just knew the game was special in some way. I just knew it was just, it's literally, I would just fuck it the whole time, and it would just be sitting in like a pile of cartridges, and it's like he would still wouldn't, the half brother wouldn't allow me to play it, and it just had to be mine. I just had to play it. I had no idea what it was. I mean, I saw the name Chrono Trigger and it said Squaresoft on it, but at the same time, I knew Squaresoft I knew they knew how to fucking make games. Back in the day, their games were just amazing. And this was like when PlayStation 1 and N64 were out and stuff, and before like PS2 was just a little babby at the time. A little baby. But it didn't matter. All those games, all those new age games coming out, I didn't care about those. I had one thing to do and wanted to do, and that was to play Chrono Trigger. How did I do it? How did I ever become so lucky? Well, like I said, I wasn't lucky at first. I had to beg. I just had to be persistent, a little persistent asshole, little fucker, a little annoying kid asking the oldest, "Can I play this game, please? I want to play it so bad." And I didn't have to do anything like vigorous or like do his chores or tie his fucking shoes or go to the store and buy him fucking candy bars or nothing of that. It was nothing that tyrannical. nothing on a sort like that. But it's just like playing the lottery. You just play so many times, you lose, and then eventually you get the one ticket and you win it all. And that's how it happened with me. And I kept asking, and one day he eventually gave in and said yes. You can only imagine what I was feeling at that very moment. It's like going to Disney World or Disneyland for the first fucking time. It was just something so monumental, and I'll never frickin' forget it either. It's just it would just always be embedded in my brain, just deep into my psyche, because it was just such a magical adventure and such a journey that I endured when I was playing the game. So like I said, it was Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo. I was ready to play it until one of my best friends, one of the youngers, had a friend over and they were playing Super Nintendo, and I was just like, I got so sad because I was so ready to play it. It was after school. I was just thinking about it all day. I was just like, oh, I can't wait to play it when I get home and go to my friend's house. And truth be, I just couldn't do anything because they were playing games. I was just like, I even went to the oldest and it was like, this person's playing games with his friend, or your brother's playing games with his friend, and I want to play Chrono Trigger. I basically had to, cry about it. I didn't really cry, but you know what I'm talking about. So he told, it was his Super Nintendo and all the games were his. So I hate to do that to my best friend, but I wanted to fucking play that game. I was just so desperate. I was willing to sacrifice so much just to play one game, right? My friend could have been like, what the fuck's your problem type deal, but he was cool about it. We were all cool with each other. I mean best friends, right? And so he told him not to play the game with his friend anymore. I can't remember what game they were playing, but and that's when it happened, folks. I was finally able to play Chrono Trigger right from the start. Squaresoft, clock ticking, tick tock, and then you just hear a little piano cue. But it wasn't exactly like a piano, like a legit instrument of a piano, whatever, playing, but it had that video game, feel to it, that MIDI type music, to where it sounded like a piano, and that shit was playing, and just the chimes came up, the chimes, and just, oh my God, I just had a boner right from the get-go, and it was just, I knew it was just going to be a fantastic journey. And boy, guys, I loved every second of that game. The moment you wake up in your bed, going to that Millennia Fair, and going through that fucking time warp to the past, holy shit. Like, everything about the game was just executed so well. All the battles, all the side quests, all the fucking stories and climaxes and endings and multiple endings, people that you meet, things you do, just everything. Going to the past, present, and future. Oh my God, it was just, my God, it's just the music alone. You could just not ever forget. The original composer got a fucking stomach ulcer from just trying to fucking think of the best music, and someone had to take over. You know who that was? Nobuo Uematsu took over, and oh my fucking God, it was a masterpiece of a work. His fucking OST. Whew, man. Okay, guys. So that was just a really bland version of me encountering Chrono Trigger for the first time. So now let's talk about how it became, why it was just so great. It's just, I just want to say everything in that game was just so great. How it was executed, the way everything was timed, how it just timed. Just the subject of time alone is just what made it so amazing. How they took time and just put it in a game that you would never expect it in an RPG, that it looks like it was set in medieval time. But holy shit, guys, they did it. And it was just, it's like you were just playing this. It's like the same game, but just set in different worlds. You were playing like multiple versions of the game, but it was just one giant collage on one. It was like on a giant mural, and you were just seeing like this huge timeline of events left and right. But you were fucking experiencing it by playing the game in that fucking plastic Super Nintendo controller. You were doing all that. You were just living the fucking dream of a masterpiece. And by this day, the game is still considered one of the best games ever made, and it's still a masterpiece, and it's still aged well. I go back to that game every now and then, because I have it for the DS, I have it for the PlayStation 1. I don't have it for the Super Nintendo, sadly, because I don't have a Super Nintendo, but there's emulators. And the game is still a sight to behold. Still, to this day, I still get that same feeling of greatness and of just a masterpiece of a creation. And it's not even nostalgia, guys. When you get a game that has come from the past and you're playing it in the present and it has no nostalgia on it, you're not wearing those nostalgia glasses, that's when you know you got something truly special. Just, man, the protagonist, Chrono. Chrono Trigger, Chrono. Chrono's name just didn't have an H in it. And my friend David said it's because the text, the amount of words you can put in the text box just couldn't fit the full name. But it's just clever design, right? You just take one little letter off and you just, it's just perfect. Just by, the fucking art design of that game, it's drawn by Akira Toriyama, this most infamous anime creator for Dragon Ball, the manga Dragon Ball. That's the same guy who worked on Chrono Trigger's art design. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is one of the main reasons why I love it, because it's just so many people working on it. You got Nobuo Uematsu with the music, it was so amazing. You got the art design with Akira Toriyama, and then you got Squaresoft working on the goddamn story. Squaresoft was a fucking powerhouse back in the day. They still kind of are, but they're Square Enix now. But sorry about the creek, but you just couldn't top that. You had Chrono Trigger and you had Final Fantasy 3 on the Super Nintendo and Secret of Mana. Anyway, the list goes on. You had those powerhouses, but shit. Just Chrono Trigger all the fucking way. Just goddamn, that, like I said, the fourth dimension of time was just explained just so well in that game. It taught you so many things about the science of time, the application of time, and how can it alter the past, present, and future. You as a kid, you probably watched Back to the Future, right? But you were watching it. You weren't really controlling this sprite, this person with the cool ass samurai sword and his red hair, and it's just using all these spells. You weren't doing that in Back to the Future. No, you were just watching the magic happen. But this, you were doing it. You were living it. You were just astonished that I'm getting this robot as a teammate from the future, and then I'm getting this knight who's a fucking frog from the past. It's like all these worlds coming together into your world, and you're experiencing theirs, and they're experiencing you, controlling them. Shit, you just go back to BC, gazillion years BC time, and you meet this cave lady who becomes a part of your team, and just everyone is just so dynamic in how they all come together, and the music that brings them together, just the theme songs alone, you just can't beat it. Everywhere you go, you just feel so alive and so immersed. And it's a fucking 2D game. You could still feel immersed into the game such as that. Holy crap, dude. It's just if you haven't tried Chrono Trigger, there's something that you're not eating in your diet that's not a lot. It's something that's preventing you from playing such a masterful game. Of course, it's an old game, and you may have not been born in that generation to experience that. But you should definitely go back and fucking do it. You should just stop what you're doing and just go out and just play the damn game. If you already played it, play it again. Shit, I just want to play it from just talking about it. But you see, I'm not listing all the specs about it. I'm guessing what also made it stand from the crowd and into its own fucking diverse experience. And I guess an example would be the battling alone. The battle system was real time. Unlike Final Fantasy, which was, random battles, you step somewhere and then holy shit, you go into this fucking crazy, intense, orgasmic battle scenario where it's turn-based. Well, this game is real time, turn-based. You see the creatures, you run into them. You don't have to run into them. You can avoid them. Sometimes, you can't avoid them, but you know what? It's just always a magical experience every time you experience a foe. Or you're working together with your ally to perform an awesome dual spell or a triple spell. Oh, that's right. That's the one. Chrono Trigger was the one game to where you can combine magic spells to do an ultimate attack. Oh yes, dual techs and tri-techs. Yeah, it was fucking crazy. Just that game risked so much and did so much and went so far off the usual wavelength, just off the spectrum. It just completely flipped the script, and it just did it so well. It was just like, oh man, that execution, man, that can just slay any game. Chrono Trigger alone could slay any game if it really wanted to. People dare not ridicule such a fantastic game. They would just be fucking fools. And when I beat that game as a kid, I wanted to play it again. I wanted to play those multiple endings in a Super Nintendo game. Like, what? What? Decision making in a fucking Super Nintendo game? Like, that game was ahead of its fucking time. Holy shit. It's like, that's a game that should have came out like 10 years later when Knights of the Old Republic came out, or Baldur's Gate. I don't know exactly when Baldur's Gate came out, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, oh my god. It's just like, you were just playing a game that was just for the next generation and above. And that's why our minds just fucking exploded as kids. And we just, oh my god. It was just like one of the few games that just knew what the fuck they were doing. But at the same time, they were just putting so much on the line. But goddamn, Squaresoft did it so well. And that's why I fell in love with the game, because it was just everything I loved about, astronomy, it's space and time and all that. That was in it. I love astronomy and those, dimensions. Like I said, space and time, just fantasy, medieval, futuristic. It just had it all, folks. It just fucking had it all in one giant package. Amazing. Just amazing. And you know what? It was amazing enough to have a sequel, Chrono Cross. Now, I won't go too far into it, and a lot of people thought Chrono Cross wasn't the true sequel to the game, but I loved Chrono Cross. I mean, I could say Chrono Cross is one of my favorite role-playing games to play, too, because that was just amazing, too. But we're here to talk about Chrono Trigger. God damn. And you know what? I made a podcast about I Am Setsuna. Oof. And that game tried so hard to be the perfect clone. And I would say it would have done a good job if it wasn't just in the fucking ice the whole time on planet Hoth. Jesus Christ, that's some variety. I mean, Chrono Trigger, just the amount of depth that was in that was probably really hard for them to make something like that. Because, they're like, oh, Final Fantasy, medieval? We like making medieval with swords and shit. Oh, shit, we're going back to prehistoric times? Oh, shit, we're going to the future? Yeah. Oh, and who's this Lavos motherfucker who's just raining fucking havoc and total annihilation of just all things life and matter? Yeah, that was intense. You guys know when you fucking failed the game, Lavos came for your fucking ass. Oh man, that was just, you just didn't want the fucking world to end. Like, just holy shit, you wanted to really fucking save the world from total annihilation. When you went to the future and saw all those poor fucking folks living in fucking shambles and just everything was frozen over, that was a future we all wanted to avoid in our real life from a fucking giant asteroid. Except this was Lavos who came from underground. Yeah, exactly. And guess what? You find out how the fuck Lavos became what it is in the game. So all things tied together in that game, you find out the source of it. So great. And that game, just so much lore to it. If you look up Chronopedia on all things in that game, it goes so far in depth. And that's not because they made books on it or they had a sequel. No, guys, the game from the very beginning had so much in it. So much potential, so much left to be explained. So many theorists out there, just so fucking many. Like I said, a fucking game that was just ahead of its time. It's a shame that Squaresoft doesn't make games like that anymore, or Square Enix. The next big role-playing game is Final Fantasy 15. But it's just not going to come close. And it's almost sad for me to say, but I hope they never remaster Chrono Trigger. Because why? Why would you remaster a masterpiece? You just shouldn't. You just shouldn't. I wouldn't want to see it 3D. No. Leave it alone. Don't change anything. They were smart about putting it on the DS or in the PlayStation, because they added cutscenes, they added bonus dungeons and all this extra stuff. That was good. Just add things to it. Don't change anything. Don't remake anything. So if you're going to do anything Chrono Trigger related, just fucking make a true sequel to it. There you go. But you know what? Who knows if that'll ever happen. I mean, you saw people reacted when they did a Final Fantasy... Well, they're doing a Final Fantasy 7 remake of Final Fantasy 7. And they changed the combat and people were furious about it, despite how amazing it looks. So we don't want that with Chrono Trigger. Leave that alone. That's the forbidden fruit right there. Oh man. God damn. I experienced that game on every generation it's been on for platforms. Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, and DS. Beat them all on every console. And it was just so amazing. Each time, brand new experience. And I fucking would do it again over and over. But you know how it goes. The game, I don't give the game enough credit. I really don't, folks. But I decided to let you know how I truly felt about the game. And in conclusion, you fucking better play the damn game. You better try it out. You better be like, you know what? I'm going to fucking play the game. NikoTheLegend, Nicholas, it's taught me a lot about the game. Maybe I haven't, but I just like doing these little rants and just talking about whatever, giving you vague impressions of a game. But hey, I'm just teasing your fucking cock right now. So guys, that is truly how I felt about Chrono Trigger and why you should play it and why it's the best. It is the best. The best. Better than Witcher. Better than Dragon Age. Better than Mass Effect. Mass Effect is amazing in itself. But Chrono Trigger is better than Final Fantasy. Better than all your motherfucking games you've been playing. Better than your racing cars, shooting games. Go ahead, debate me. Debate me down in the comments. Oh, I fucking dare you. Come on, bring it on. Anyways, that was fun. So guys, this has been a podcast by NikoTheLegend. Sorry about the fakeness, but fucking whatever. Time is 12:06 a.m. Still, wait, the date has changed. 9/23/2016. So when you see this cover on the podcast for the thumbnail, click it, motherfuckers. Like, comment, subscribe. Good night, y'allsies.